All right, what can I say about this next gentleman? If any of you have met him, he's kind of shy and introverted. It takes a lot to draw him out. So he may need a little bit of encouragement to get him excited. I'm, of course, being sarcastic. Our next speaker, Dave Daley, helps business owners and commissional sales reps rise above the noise in their industry, scale their business with their ideal clients through genuine branding and personal development. Dave Daley is an entrepreneur. I'm going to have to go into my world wrestling. He's an entrepreneur, author, master storyteller, and business branding coach. For 25 years, Dave Daley has a full-time entrepreneur. Since that time, Dave has built and sold 3 companies in 3 different industries and crashed one to the ground. Coming to you live, raw, and live. Please give a warm welcome for David the Monster Motivator.
Chris, I thought we were boys. I thought you were going to skip over the crash of the ground. I'm not afraid of love. I thought we were going to stick with just the 3 that I built and sold, not the one I crashed to the ground.
I read your website. I'm sorry. I just ad-libbed it.
What's up, guys? All right, so just so you know, I sweat tie my shoes. So this is my savior. And this is how technical I am. All right? You got to know your strengths and enhance your weaknesses. So, first of all, did everyone get a bag, or whoever was supposed to get a bag? This right here was given to me by Bob Proctor in 2007 down in Florida. And he told me, son, if you read this book the rest of your life, you will constantly grow. Now, I want to highlight something just so we put some real context around this. Everything that I share, everything that I teach, I've done and or currently doing. I'm not going to get into this, but it's going to give some context around this. I have something called the Monster Momentum Morning, and has multiple meditations. And one of the meditations is reading meditation. Now this was actually given to me by Bob Proctor, and as you can see, it's used every single day. It was one of the best advice I've ever got in business and in life. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a personal development coach, a branding coach, a business coach. If you follow this, you don't need any of us in this room. This is Life 101. So there's my rant for that. So let me start out and I'm not sure what page I'm on in your booklet, but I know I'm not hard to find. Again, guys, I want you to understand something, right? There's 2 different types of branding, right? There's that visual branding, and there's the other type of branding we're going to talk about. But this is very, very important in your branding, especially branding in 2020, not 2004. So before we do get started, and I want you to turn that over and circle this. Your vulnerability becomes your credibility. Your vulnerability becomes your credibility. That's why I asked everyone in this room, when you went back to that child and you wrote those 3 things down, ask yourself, why wasn't I comfortable enough sharing that? Your vulnerability in 2020 is absolutely your credibility. When I teach, there is not a university in this world that would have taught me what I learned in the window of time when I crashed that business to the ground. Not even close. And the wisdom that I can now share with my audience is second to none. Does that make sense? Your vulnerability becomes your credibility. Wear those scars with pride. Get it? Okay. So before we jump in, Sohaila, come on up. So, look, at the end of the day, did you see me? I even had one of those on.
Yeah, I know.
I was stepping on a lot of feet, and I wasn't making the brochure, but I did it, baby. First of all, this is a monster mode right here. What this lady has done, right, is in my book. One of my chapters is called The Dynamic Duo. If it doesn't scare you and excite you at the same time, it's not big enough. Was this big enough? Was this big enough?
I want it bigger.
Did it scare you and excite you?
Scared the shit out of me.
Atta girl. Now, before you leave, who here, raise your hands, knows what the Monster Motivator roar is? Raise your hands. Understand something, that's branding. That's branding. Everybody stand up. Now, everything with your brand, your personal brand, should mean something, right? And it's got to be your flavor. So what the roar is, it started with a show I had called Monster Motivator TV. And at the end of the interview, I would ask every person on the show, life is asking you a question right now. Do you want to purr like a kitten or roar like a lion? All right, now the sound is just as important as the pose. On three, it's going to go like this. 1, 2, 3, ah! Yeah. All right, so now that I got your attention, you got to help me circle back around this if I forget, but you want to talk about contrast? The Monster Motivator on stage with a harp. That's contrast, baby. That's contrast. So, when I connected with Sohaila, and she invited me and told me what this was all about, I didn't even blink an eye. You know why? Because I love women. In business. If I didn't finish that sentence, I'm sleeping with one eye open. And here's why. Because it's so personal to me. See, first of all, make no mistake. You are not going to find a bigger fan, women in business, than me right here. The only reason I was able to build and sell my first company is because I had amazing women supporting me and around me. I'm going to share that story with you in a second. But here's what I want you to understand. The baddest human being on the planet, bar none, is a good woman. Wait a minute. What's my definition of a good woman? Real simple. You handle your business personally, and you handle your business professionally, right? And a good woman can do that all day long and twice on Sunday. And if you don't believe me, I will take you into any professional office right now, attorney, doctor, chiropractor, dentist. Who's running the show? Who's running the show? You just have to be reminded how badass you really are. And let me share my personal story with you. Her name is Robin, and Robin was my first business This is going to come to a shock, but I'm not from Encinitas. Believe it or not. I know it's a shocker. I'm actually from the East Coast. I'm from Jersey. And I really am an adopted son out here in the LA area because I was born in a town called Norristown outside of Philly. And it's the hometown of Tommy Lasorda and Mike Piazza. So we have any Dodger fans? I'm an adopted son. But I was raised in Jersey. My family's from South Philly, so I'm from the East Coast. So I had my first business that I built and sold was a public adjusting firm in Philly. Now, a public adjuster is somebody that's licensed and bonded in the state to represent the homeowner against the insurance company on a contingent fee like a personal injury lawyer. So Robin was with me from day one. She got a set of keys when I got a set of keys. And as I started to scale, she crawled, she walked, and she ran with me. She became my secretary and then my office manager, and then she became, to be honest with you guys, she became my boss. I would come in, we got to a certain point, I'd come in, and she'd just yell at me and tell me what to do, and then I'd leave. She ran the show. And I used to say this to her on Fridays. I'd give her a check, and I go, Robin. And she was very meek and mild. But if my money was on the line, you don't want to get in her way. She was an absolute lion. And unconditional support, it was unbelievable. So I used to say to her, I give her a check, and I say, Robin, what are you and your husband doing this weekend? And she'd go, I don't know, maybe go out to dinner and maybe the movies. I go, listen to me. Don't do anything crazy. I need you Monday. I'm going to put you in a Pope mobile so nothing happens. She ran my business. So it goes very deep for me. My ex-wife did my books, right? Did the payroll. Because I'm a big fan of reverse engineering. Understanding your weaknesses so you can enhance them with the people and the processes so you can triple down, quadruple down on your strengths. And my strengths were always in the front, but what a train wreck it was in the back if I didn't have the right people. And that's what happened with the business that I crashed to the ground. I thought I had the people and the systems in place, and I just didn't. Does that make sense? Now, let me give you a little more of a bio on me, where I came from, where I'm at today, where I see myself going. I'll give you like a 30,000-foot view. And I'll take you all the way to the beginning. From day one. I was put up for adoption at birth. First 18 months of my life, I was in an orphanage in North Philly. Adopted by two amazing human beings. And you're going to know how amazing they are a little bit later. Amazing human beings. And when they adopted me at 18 months old, they were in their middle to late 40s. So they were 2 generations ahead. So I was raised by the World War II generation. You know what my dad's philosophy was? Lace up your boots, get to work, nobody wants to hear it. And I'm so grateful to be raised in that environment. And so grateful that they picked me and created a safe haven for me. And I'm going to tell you something. We hear this title a lot, Unconditional Love. My mom might have not been my biological mom, but she was supposed to be my mom. And when I tell you the definition of unconditional love, and trust me, I tested that numerous times, unconditional love no matter what. And that's partly why I am here. But to really be honest with you guys, the professionals with all the diplomas on the wall growing up told me I'm not supposed to be here. See, I was left back in the 2nd grade. I was diagnosed with ADD. They said I had a learning disorder, never graduated high school. And at 19, I'm sitting in a jail cell looking at 8 to 10 if things don't go my way. So when we do get into Q&A, I'm going to take the pressure off everybody. 2 things you're asking right now. Why was I in a jail cell? And what business did I crash? So we're going to hit that. Get it? That's just the first 19 years of my life. But I grew up in a push-pull environment. See, the professionals, and you see how lightly I do that? The professionals told me I wasn't supposed to win because I couldn't learn in that cookie-cutter mode. But every time they told my mom I was broken, she said, "You're full of shit." She said, "He's just a little boy." And she used to tell me from the moment that I could remember that she loved me, I was a gift from God, and that I could do whatever I wanted. So I was brought up. I was brought up in that push-pull environment. And I was also brought up in that lace your boots, get to work, nobody wants to hear it environment. Let me put a little context around the World War II generation, because we have some young people in here. You ready? My dad was World War II 82nd Airborne. He was drafted at 18. He went to Europe. Two times his platoon, whatever you want to call it, I might not be using the right verbiage, but Rob can help me out here, went into the concentration camps and rescued people out of the concentration camps twice in the 4 years he was there. He comes back home. He's in his mom's house, his family's house, a row home in Philly. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. He's eating breakfast. He's 2 days back from World War II. She comes downstairs at 7 in the morning. He's eating breakfast. She goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, I'm eating breakfast. She goes, "How come you're not working? We need money." He goes, she goes, "Don't come back until you have a job." That afternoon, he's loading, stocking shelves at the grocery store. 2 days back from World War II. Still has the smell of the concentration camps that they went in and rescued. It came from his lips. So that's why I'm so grateful that I was raised in that environment. You want to talk about perception and power of perception? We're going to talk about that, because we're going to drive that home, because that's the real. So that's a little bit of my bio. And to take it a little bit further, when I dropped out, or I should say, when they kicked me out of high school, and this is a true story, this is the first time I agreed, me and my guidance counselor in high school agreed. So it's senior year, I go down to the main office after Christmas vacation, and all the ladies knew me down there, right? And they go, "What do you want now?" I said, "I don't have my combination in my locker." They go, "What?" They said, "It's January." "What do you mean? We gave you that in September." I said, "I know, I put my books in there in September. I haven't used it since." So they gave me the combination, and the door was open of my guidance counselor. He calls me in. He hears me, calls me in, "Mr. Brandt," and he's probably retired, so he won't lose his job. And he goes, "Yeah, I need to talk to you. I've been wanting to look. I was looking for you. I wanted to talk to you." I said, "Yeah, what's up?" He said, "Listen, you're not even close to graduating. You're going to have to go to summer school again. This will be the 4th time, right?" Now, remember, I was already left back in the 2nd grade, and he almost left me back in the 8th grade. And I go, "Oh, listen, I'm not doing summer school again." He goes, "Well, you're not going to graduate." I go, "Listen," "I'll be honest with you." I said, "This just isn't for me." And he goes, "I got to agree." I said, "Thanks." Walked out, went home, told my parents, and my dad goes, "Great. Now what are you going to do?" He says, "How are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to eat?" I go, "That's a good question." He goes, "Well, you better go get a job." So I went in. What I did, right, my conditioning reminded me that all I could do was physical labor, construction, right? All I could do was pick this up over here and carry it over here, and I'm telling you, I did everything. Roofing, framing, ironworkers union, laborers union, landscaping, concrete work, masonry work, you named it. If it was physical, I did it. Until a gentleman, and I rephrased this over the last few years because I really understand it, or I'm understanding it much more. I used to say a gentleman came into my life, but I attracted this gentleman into my life, and it's one of my keynotes, and I'm just going to give you, again, the 30,000-foot view. His name's Tommy, right? Now, I'm a kid from Jersey. I'm just doing construction. I'm renting a room for my buddy's mom, and we are in one of the worst economies in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, where it was like 2008. Banks weren't lending. Construction was shut down. There was nothing out there, and I had to pay bills, right? So it's a Tuesday morning. I'm in the kitchen. I get the newspaper. I'm looking at help wanted ads, and this is before the internet. That's how old I am. And I see this ad, and it just jumped right out at me. It said, help wanted, no experience necessary, and we'll train. I go, that's me. I have no experience, and they're going to train me. It was outside sales, right? And it was selling copiers and fax machines B2B in Center City, Philly. Long story short, and this is a great 60-minute keynote. You guys got to listen to this whenever you have an opportunity. It's awesome. But Tommy saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And then when I looked back, when I had a chance to remove myself and look back, I saw something in him, right, that helped build me. Here's what I mean. So Tommy, let me put a little context around Tommy. Tommy was a combination of Danny DeVito and Joe Pesci. Okay? He didn't speak a lot, but when he looked at you, you knew. Okay? And here's Tommy's training. I never did this in my life. He goes, get in the car, kid. He goes, we're going to go, I'm going to show you how to sell. And I would just stand behind him like a lost puppy dog, shaking. And we walk into a business, he'd give the card, and he'd do the whole thing. And then he just threw me out to the wolves. He goes, you're going to be fine. He goes, don't worry about it. But what Tommy taught me, I could walk into any business, any home, look you in the eye, and ask for the decision maker. Right? I was doing 40 to 50 cold calls a day, 5 days a week. And I had to bring the business cards back and then follow up. So that changed my life. And Tommy was the kid from the neighborhood that wasn't supposed to make it, right? But he was 15 years ahead of me. So here's what I saw when I went into the interview. I saw the ones with the degrees on the wall working for Tommy. And Tommy saw something in me that I didn't see in me at the time. But there was something in me that attracted Tommy and attracted us and was just instant. So again, there's things in your life, right, that are key moments. Whether they feel, a lot of times they might come across as a bad thing, but you have to understand that contrast is power. When you have the right perception, contrast is power. But Tommy taught me, the things that Tommy taught me, I still take with me today, and I utilized in my businesses, and still do today. I also own and operate a fire restoration business out here in Southern California, also since 2013. So, yeah, I'm just once they kicked me out of high school, I realized I had the entrepreneurial DNA. And I combined personal development with practical, real-world practical steps when it comes to branding, marketing in 2020 versus 2004, because there's a big difference. And there's a lot of examples in here, right? The difference between 2004 and 2020, you guys want to know what that is? You guys want to know what that is? Yes. 2004, and I know Patty's going to back me up on this. It's what you knew and who you knew. 2020, hold tight. It's what you know, it's who you know, but who knows you? Get it? Who knows you? 2004, your business brand trumped your personal brand. 2020, if you don't understand that your personal brand is going to trump your business brand and your business brand should follow, you lost. You lost. And Patty is that example. If anybody was here for her story, that's exactly what she's doing right now. Correct? That's it. Your personal brand. I'll drive this point home. Raise your hands. How many people are on social media? I don't care what platform. You're a global brand. Whether you like it or not, you're a global brand. Andy Frisella, $500 million in revenue, First Form Supplements, and probably 6 or 7 other companies. And Bedros Keuilian, Fit Body Boot Camp, $200 to $300 million in gross revenue, told by them. They spit out those numbers. Both said at the same time that they don't even look at resumes. They look at your social media. So even if you're not an entrepreneur and you are an employee, they look at your social media. And I'll give you a little, you ready? Give you a little secret. Here's what else they said. They both said at the same time. Not only did they look at your social media, but when you come in for an interview, they send somebody down and look in your car, because if your car's a mess, they don't want to hire you. Because if you keep your car a mess, that's how you're going to treat their business. Just a little side note. I thought that was interesting that they both said it at the same time. And they're both are hovering around $500 million in revenue, right, with multiple businesses. So it's probably somebody that knows what they're talking about. So you are a global brand. But are you going to leverage it in 2020, or are you stuck in 2004, right? Now, I get this asked all the time. Before I go on, that's my, if you look on that paper, and there it is, that's my boy Tua, man. I rescued him at 10, or I should say we rescued each other when he was 10 months old. And we hear the same thing all the time, right? Man, you guys are so much nicer than we thought. I said, yeah, I know, we're just big teddy bears, but don't let that get out. It's going to ruin my image. All right? Keep that a secret. But that's my boy. So people ask me all the time, how did you even get into personal development? Because I guess they don't think I looked the part. Right? So I was married and together with my ex-wife 17 years. She was 19. I was 22, going on 16. And we were going through some struggles, and she said, why don't we go to marriage counseling? Now, let me share with you who I was back then. I'm a kid from Jersey. I go, marriage counseling? Hey, what are you, crazy? Who am I going to talk to in marriage counseling? What's she going to tell me? So she finally talked me into it. We go to sit down, the first meeting we have. When I tell you, spiritual, you ready for this? Now, this is a kid from Jersey. We sit down, and she starts talking about Abraham. I go, what? We leave that session. I go, Michelle, are you crazy? I go, this lady just flew in on some magic carpet. Are you out of your mind? No, just give it a chance. And you see, she was always 10 steps ahead. She paid for like 4 sessions. So I'm stuck now, right? She's way ahead. So we go back again. I'm like, this is unbelievable. I go, listen, if anybody sees me, I can't go back in the neighborhood. Are you crazy? Right? So here I am. They're going through the thing. So fast forward the clock. After 2 or 3 sessions together, she would split us up. After like the second session of me by myself with, her name's Renee, I would leave with just my mind blown when it came to personal development, that I was sitting there writing down questions for the next session. And I'd come in, I'd be like, Renee, blah, 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 blah. And so after like the 3rd or 4th independent session, she finally says, now, Patty, stay with me. You're going to love this. You are going to love this. You ready? Yeah, you're going to love this. So she says to me, okay, you're ready. I go, ready for what? She says, here's what I want you to do. She goes, I want you to go to Barnes & Noble. Now, we had a big Barnes & Noble in our town. And she said, and this is like 2005. And she said, I want you to go to the personal development section. And I want you to go in the personal development section, and the book is what she said. The book will find you. I go, what? She goes, the book will find you. And I go, I swear to God, I go like this. I go, it was just me and her in the room. I go, Renee, listen to me. I go, you have not steered me wrong yet. And she starts laughing, right? I said, but are you out of your mind? She goes, just listen to me, right? I'm like, this is unbelievable. What? Now, understand something. Believe it or not, I used to go into our Barnes & Noble in our town once a month. You know why? I would walk in, go to the right, and it was all magazines. Powerlifting, boxing, right? Bodybuilding. Way more pictures, less words. right? So a Friday night, I'd be in there reading the magazine. So I go there, I walk up, I walk in the door, and I'm like, holy shit, there's a whole other section to this store. But personal development, I'm like, what? So I see this young kid that works there, and I go, I got a question for you. I said, is there some sort of personal development or self-help? Oh, yeah, there's 3 aisles of it. I go, really? It's like, yeah, come on down. So, and now you got to remember, it's going to pick me. And I'm like, I hope nobody can hear me, right? Because I'm out of my mind, right? So I'm like, shit, all right. So I'm walking down the aisle, and I just grab a thing, grab a book. She told me, just when you grab it, I'm reading the front cover and the back cover, and it reminded me of high school when I had to do a book report. I just was like, whip, right? Front cover, back cover, maybe the table of contents. So 2 or 3 books in the first aisle, I'm like, nah. Second aisle, halfway through, I see a book. Right on the side, it says, you ready? Dare to Win. Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen. Now, I was in that same week that Bob Proctor gave me that book. Mark Victor Hansen was a speaker, and I said to him, hey, this book became my Bible. You know what he said? Shit, I didn't think anybody read it. This book is called Dare to Win. Now, you ready for this? This is the Dare to Win. This is a kid from Jersey that never read a book in his life from cover to cover. I pick this book up, I see the title, it caught me. I read the table of contents, it caught me. So I'm like, something's wrong. I read the back, it caught me. I'm like, something's wrong. And I start reading this book in the aisle. Now, it's not a big book. It's perfect, big words, right? Perfect for me. A lot of space, right? Maybe 115 pages. Yeah, they had no content. It was perfect for me. She just said they had no content. It was perfect for me, right? It's the universe, baby. You let them do the heavy lifting. So I'm reading the book. I'm halfway through, and I'm in the aisle, and I look up. I'm like, holy shit, I'm halfway through this book. Now, again, it's not. So, but for me, yeah. So I'm like, man, I gotta buy this book. I go buy the book. I get in my truck. And I finished reading that book before I left the parking lot. And that book became my personal Bible for 3 years. Highlighted, underlined it. That book just found me and spoke to me. And when I go back to Renee, I go, you're right, this is unbelievable. She goes, I told you. So, the theme of what I want to talk about today and what I coach people on and help people on is, again, branding and marketing in 2020, not 2004. And it's all about your signature stories and how you construct them. And if you look at that page, I have a blueprint that's very, very simple and applicable. Here's how I live my life. Life is simple, not always easy, but the simpler you make it, the easier it becomes. Get it? The simpler you make it, the easier it becomes. So, if you want to learn how to sell without selling, learn how to share your stories and weave them in with real-world content. It's that simple. Learn to share your stories that connect and weave them in with real-world content. So if you look at this page, it says connect with the heart, teach with the head, reconnect with the heart, and we're going to go a little deeper on that, and then bring in that social proof. So at the end of the day, understand this. Brand loyalty is king because it maps to trust. Brand loyalty is king because it maps to trust. And if your end goal isn't trust, you lost. Whether that's your personal brand or your business brand. If your end goal is not trust, you lost. Here's what I'm going to promise you today. Whether you like me, whether you don't, whether you agree with me, whether you don't, Here's what you're going to leave saying. But he was real. That's all I care about. He was real. I got an awesome story for that, but I know we're running out of time. So, branding in 2020, not 2004. I split it up. Personal development, and I have digital programs. I have a program called the 90-Day Brand Builder Boot Camp, and it's combining personal development and practical steps. I believe that if any program out there doesn't have personal development, Bob Proctor shared this with me years ago, and he's so right. If there's any program out there that doesn't have personal development, it's incomplete. Personal development is life 101. We know that. We've sat here for 2 days now, and everyone goes back to the same thing, personal development. There's no mistake in that. So I combine both of those. And what I talk about in personal development, my end goal is to create that bulletproof self-image. Again, I learned so much from Bob Proctor back in the day. He says you could build your self-image up, you could tear it down, but you cannot outperform it, right? Like that thermostat. You could build it up, you could tear it down, but you cannot outperform it. Now, you ready? The greatest gift, I feel so passionate about this because the greatest gift that anybody in this room can give any child, whether it's yours or not, is a bulletproof self-image, because you're going to teach that child that it can fish and nobody has to fish for it, for them. Get it? Bulletproof self-image, and where that ties in your personal branding is once you start to build that bulletproof self-image, now you can learn how to show up every day, real, raw, and live. And unless you can build that bulletproof self-image, you're not going to get there. Personal development is the foundation. Every time I would leave that personal development world, my personal life and my business life was affected. And that's just the real. Brand loyalty is king, and we talk about that. I get into real practical steps when it comes to branding, marketing in 2020. And one of the things I talk about is the 3 C's. Can somebody grab my book? The 3 C's in branding and marketing. And we'll use my book as an example. Thank you so much. And again, I'm very simple. I learn in a simple way, and I share in a simple way. I'm just a simple guy. I don't know if I should say that, huh? The 3 C's. Curiosity, creativity, connection. Probably want to write that down. The 3 C's. Let me give you an example. So this is my book, Fearless is Bullshit. Okay? What this really means is this. We were brought up, at least I know I was, that if I felt fear, I'm broken. I'm weak. There's something wrong with me. But what I realized is fear is a real feeling. Just like love, just like anger. The question is it going to be your heaviest anchor or your strongest propeller? And the goal is to break through that fear, to get on the other side so you can become courageous. Courage comes from the 3-letter word core, which comes from here, right? My subtitle, I'm going to teach you how to get your lunch money back from that bully. And understand something. The biggest bully you will ever face in life is those dreaded fear barriers. I wrote an ebook back in 2012. It's called The Monster Under the Bed. You're 10 years old, you're in your room, the lights are out, you're under the covers, it's pitch dark. And you hear this sound. And you know for sure it is a big green hairy monster ready to come out and eat you right now. How many of you have been there? I mean, I was there last week. Until an adult comes in, turns on the lights, you look under the bed, and what is it? What is it? There's no monster. And it's the exact same thing that happens when we become adults. We create this big green hairy monster, and we're either going to learn to turn those lights on or we need somebody to turn them on for us so we can look under the bed and laugh. Get it? That's it. That's life 101. So curiosity. You want to create curiosity because at the end of the day, if you don't have eyeballs, you lost. If you don't have eyeballs in business, you lost, right? You got to create that curiosity. So here's one of my titles. This ain't Batman and Robin. round 5. Now, I count my chapters as rounds, not it's just part of my brand, right? This ain't Batman and Robin. So I want that to catch your eye, and I want you to create some curiosity. So now you're going to open up to that. See? And then creativity. But the key in 2020 is it has to be in your flavor. And I'm going to take some pressure off of everyone in here. I do keynotes around the country. Me. I was out in Boston, did a keynote for 300 IT people. You want to talk about contrast? You know what? So they put me in a hotel where the event was. I come downstairs. I come walking down the aisle, and the event planner goes, "Oh my God, thank God." I go, "What? What's the matter?" She goes, "You look like your pictures, thank God. We need the Monster Motivator to wake these people up." See, it's your flavor. She picked me because this is who I am, right? This is who I am to my core. To my core, and I will prove that to you. There's so many motivational speakers that are afraid to tell you they're motivational speakers because they think it's not deep enough, right? And I'm going to tell you this. Life has a trifecta. Here's life's trifecta. Motivation, inspiration, and perspiration. And they need to be in that order. If you're not motivated, where do you start? How do you get to the starting blocks if you're not motivated? The key is the motivation has to now be backed up with inspiration, right? Something from in here. And nothing works without perspiration, inspired action. Those 3 steps in that order. Get it? So, the other thing I want to talk about, and so ironic, forget your first name, back there. Melissa. We talked yesterday. I owned a sports nutrition store when I first moved out here, and built and sold it, and opened it up in 2008, the worst economy we knew since the Depression. And first year and a half, we tripled the numbers, and by 2012, it made sense to flip it, right? But everyone in my inner circle said, "You just moved from the other side of the country. You never did retail in your life. Are you out of your mind?" Right? But there was something that I saw, and I had a lot of passion for it, and that's a whole other story. But you brought me aside, and when you said you lived in Vista, I said, well, I owned a Nutrition Zone. And you said, "Oh my God," I walked in there, and they told me that I was taking too much protein and blah, blah. My point is, it's all about rising above the noise in your industry and throwing up on everyone with value, right? She remembers that she walked into my store and she wasn't sold things until people found out what your goals were, got enough information that finding out how many grams of protein, right? And you still remember that. That's real world value. That's why we were able to triple the numbers, one of the reasons, in 2008, 9, and 10, and 11, and flip it in 2012. And not one of those sales were online. And I had a 5-mile radius. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. Get it? It's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's so key to understand. That's how you rise above the noise, elevate your position in your industry every single time. I'm going to tell you, the 2 companies I built and sold were service-based. The other was product-based, but it was really service-based. That's why we did that, right? So how interesting is that? Power of perception. I want to talk about this. I know we're running out of time. So, power of perception. And we're going to probably go in, because I know after that is some Q&A, but I'm going to go into this a little. This is very important, okay? So I'm probably going to bleed into some of the Q&A. Power of perception. You have a choice. At the end of your day, you can remember that flat tire, or you can remember that unbelievable customer service, right? You can remember the gifts that life gave you, or you can remember all the contrast. Get it? So I relocated my parents out here They were in their late 80s in 2013, and I'm telling you, it was like pulling teeth. They're born and raised in Philly. They said, they said, not only you must be out of your mind living in California, please don't drink the water. So I got them out here, got them in a retirement community in San Marcos, and this is how East Coast they are. About a month in, I call my mom. I'd stop and see him, take him out to dinner at least twice a week. I call my mom one day from the road. I go, Ma, I go, how's it going? How do you like it so far? San Diego, beautiful, right? She goes, yeah, but how come everyone wants to sell me a whole pie? I can't get a slice. That's how East Coast she was, right? I go, Ma, I got the places. We'll get you a slice. Don't worry about it. So she, that's how East Coast. So the power of perception. You ready? My dad got diagnosed with throat cancer 2015, 2 months from his 92nd birthday. Doctor came in and said, hey, we got the results. Can I see you out in the hallway? Now, my dad's in the hospital bed, right, with all the tubes and everything in him, ornery as hell. Poor nurses. I go out into the hallway, and the doctor says, hey, I just want to tell you we got the results, and it's not good. I said, okay. He says, we have two choices. We can open them up and put a tube in, maybe 8 months, maybe 9 months, or, hospice. I said, well, it's not my decision. So we walk in, doctor's standing next to me. He's all propped up with the tubes in him, ornery as hell. I go, Dad, I said, we got the diagnosis, and so the doctor says, John, he says, here's the deal. He says, I would put a tube in you, or we can talk about hospice. He didn't even blink an eye. He looks at the doctor, looks at me, he goes, Doc. He goes, I came into this world natural. I'm leaving natural. The doctor literally went like this. I go, that's World War II, baby. Right? So now, fast forward the clock, we're getting them all set up for hospice. And I'm getting my mom. Now, my mom has stayed with him for 2 weeks straight. She's 90 years old, sleeping at the hospital. And they were married and together 70 years. So I get her settled back at the place, but I could feel something was off, right? And I go, and now she's about this tall, 100 pounds on a good day, but would make us all look like we're standing still. She's doing water aerobics 3 times a week, right? 89 years old, maniac. I go, Mom, what's the matter? And we're in the kitchen, and she just looked at me, and she just grabbed me, and she just started to squeeze, and she started to cry. And I go, what's the matter? And she just looked up at me, and she goes, I'm sorry. I go, you're sorry? I go, what are you talking about? I go, if anybody earned this cry, I said you did. And she goes, oh, so she looked at me, and she said she's sorry again, and I just looked at her, and I could, there's so much fear and uncertainty, right? 70 years. And I go, I got you. I got you. And I saw the relief on her face, and I am here to tell you, if we live long enough, it is one big circle. I saw that little girl that was raised in foster care. And when I said, I got you, that relief on her face was absolutely priceless. Life gives you gifts if you're willing to look. Now, I get her all settled. I go back to the hospital. It's just me and him in the room by ourselves, all propped up, wires in them, ornery as hell. I go, well, I got a question for you. And we're waiting for hospice, right? I go, I got a question for you. He goes, what? I said, never has to leave this room, just me and you. He says, what? I said, you're a month away from your 92nd birthday. He says, yeah. I said, do you have any major regrets? He looked at me, looked out the window, looked back, and he goes, no. I go, you won. He goes, what? I go, you won. I go, you won this thing called life. You're 92 without any major regrets. And he looked at me, he smiled, and he goes, I did. Now, we brought him back. This is how ornery he was. He wouldn't even take a hospital bed. He wanted to pass in his house, right? And I literally was, and I didn't realize, I never went through this, I didn't realize that hospice was only 8 hours, not 24, right? So now I'm giving him his medicine. And here's what life did for me. Life gave me the ultimate gift. I was able, and my mom passed 2 months after, I was able to show them that I was there for them like they were there for me when I was 18 months old and growing up. So whatever you're going through, whatever you've been through, if you don't think it's about perception, you're wrong. You're wrong. And this is how strong I feel about perception. You're here for one reason. You're here to actually, this is going to floor people. You ready? I'm glad you guys are sitting down. You're actually here to be happy. You're here to actually be happy. But you have to give yourself permission to be happy. In order to do that, you have to understand the power of perception. And this relates to your business and your personal world. So look for those gifts. And I do this is a game changer for me. I have what's called, if anybody follows me on social media, I have what's called the Daley, D-A-L-E-Y, branding, gift list. And I write down all the gifts on my phone that life has thrown me that day. I'm usually 25, 30 gifts at the end of the day, and I know I missed about 50, right? Because I focus on that customer service versus that flat tire. Does that make sense? So I want to talk about the last part of this, which is real quick, social proof. I know we have some Q&A. Social proof. Understand this. In business, social proof is so important, but here's what people don't understand. They think of social proof as their customers. It's your customers, it's your clients, but it's also you. Show that social proof real, raw, and live, and understand the power of perception, and I promise you, you will win. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we got a little bit of time for questions, so who has a question? Oh, in the back. Make me work. Oh, right over there. You've got the, there you go.
I've enjoyed being Dave's next door neighbor here at the
Howdy,
table.
Daver.
For Paul, you were going to share why you ended up in jail.
Yeah.
I'm hanging on every word. Where's that story?
Here it is.
Got to close that loop.
Love it. I love telling this story, too. So I'm 19 years old. I'm down the Jersey Shore. My buddies, now understand something. We were the original Jersey Shore, not these people from Long Island or Rhode Island. We were the original Jersey Shore. Long story short, we had a shore house down the Jersey Shore in the summer, and we were heading to a nightclub about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Had some cocktails in us, got into a scuffle. They got the wrong end of the deal, and he happened to be an off-duty cop in that town. So, yeah. And when I say I was looking at 8 to 10 years, if things didn't go my way, we were walking, they were driving, they got out of the car, they approached us. So that's what I mean. When the truth came out, we were reacting, right? So that's what happened, and that's why I got, my direction didn't go in that real dark direction that was so close to going. And now talk about contrast and the power of contrast, that kept me out of so much other trouble that I would have got in, right? I still had to do 15 weekends, right? The attorney comes back and he says, hey, I got a great deal for you. I go, what? He goes, we're going to do 15 weekends. Whatever time you sign in on Friday, you get out on Sunday. I go, what? That's a good deal. He goes, yeah, you're looking at 8 to 10. I go, all right. So that's what happened. And then, also part of it was I could expunge there was no felony or anything like that. All that got expunged because they approached us. But that's what happened. Yeah. Yep.
All right, another non-jail question.
What?
What about the business you crashed?
Restaurant. I realized that was better on this side of the counter than that side, right? But here, on a serious note, you ready? What I did wrong is I didn't follow what I knew was right. See, my other businesses, I identified my weaknesses and I reverse engineered them, right? I filled those with the people and the processes. I thought I had that done with the restaurant, and I didn't. But understand my verbiage, right? What am I saying? Can anybody catch that? Anybody? And exactly, but my other verbiage is so important. Do not miss this. I, me. The buck stops here. Me, right? I, me. And this works on your personal life too. When I went through the divorce, I had to look in the mirror, right? And one other thing, I want to give you guys an awesome hack. You ready? I talk about fear barriers, how to crush those dreaded fear barriers. The biggest fear we all have, whether you want to admit it or not, is, and some of you are going to look down and go, shit, he's right. The fear of what other people think. Oh, man, that hurts, huh? The fear of what other people think. You ready? I got a hack for you. You're going to be able to crush this fear barrier, get your lunch money back right now. You ready? You ready?
Yes.
You ready? Yes. Your only job, first of all, let me back up. We're human beings. We are going to judge. I get judged on a daily basis, and I judge. We're human beings. Once you wrap your brain around that, I want you to take the next step. Your only job is to make them accurate. Get it? That picture, make them accurate. So what I mean by that is when me and my dog here on a weekly basis, when people get to know us, you're so much nicer than we thought, right? Just make them accurate. That means be you. Keep it real, raw, and live. And don't think you have to ask for permission. That's such a powerful, powerful thing, right? Because you are women and you are caregivers at your core, and you keep putting yourself last. And I'm going to share with you why you don't do that. Because you're going against nature. Nature says if you want your pack to live for tomorrow, the leader has to eat first. Get it? The leader has to eat first, or your pack dies. If your leader is weak, the pack dies. It's not my rules. It's not your rules. It's life's rules. And so many women in here are the leaders. They just have to be reminded that they're the leaders. And you have to eat first and stop feeling bad about that. You got to eat first. I am your biggest fan, women in business, because it made such a difference. I wouldn't be here without the women in my life, in all of my businesses and my personal life. That's a fact. That's a fact. That's a fact.
All right, we'll take two questions and then we're going to take a break. Do we have... Right.
A couple of years ago, Dave, you gave me a massive correction, and it's one of the 5 best business lessons I've ever learned in my life. And so I was talking about how I wanted to eliminate fear completely in business, and you said, Rob, you don't want to eliminate your fear, you want to manage it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, first of all, right, you can't. Fear is a feeling, right? Fear is a feeling like anger, like love. It's just, again, is it going to be your heaviest anchor or your strongest propeller? And when you hit those fear barriers, right, first of all, let's create that level of awareness. Let's identify it. Does it have the dynamic duo? Does it scare you and excite you at the same time? Because if it does, it just simply means it's big enough, right? And you have to move forward in order to create real world wisdom, right? When I opened my public adjusting firm, I only knew the sales end of it. I didn't know the adjusting end of it. But I started to figure it out. Then I put the people in place. See, I set my public adjusting firm up like a real estate office, right? I had adjusters on staff. I owned and operated and sold a public adjusting firm. You ready? Never adjusted one claim. I didn't even know how. I didn't want to know how. I didn't care, right? I brought the sales in. But I had Robin and my ex-wife cleaning all the mess up in the back, making sure we kept going, right? I just kept bringing the work in, and I had my adjusters on a straight commission. So that means the quicker they close the claim out, the more they close the claim out, the bigger their check was. Right? You can't know it all. You just have to keep moving forward and surround yourself with the right people. I gotta share this with you guys. You guys that I've spoken to on the side, I talk about, he was on my Monster Motivator TV, Tom Bilyeu. Built a $1 billion brand in less than 8 years, Quest protein bars. 2017, he was on my show. 4 months before that, him and his wife got bought out, and the evaluation came in between 1.2 or 1.7 billion dollars in 2017. And he did my show. I went up to his place in Beverly Hills, and we did his show. And so just nuggets after nuggets after nuggets after nuggets, and we get done. We're getting done. And I go, all right, Tom. I need one more golden nugget for my audience. He goes, gotcha. He says, Dave, now this is a man that built a $1 billion brand. You ready? He says, Dave, when I want to learn something new, I find those people and I sit at their feet. That's a man that built a $1 billion brand in less than 8 years. And you want to talk about, I thought I was somewhat humble there? That checked me like never before, and so genuine. When I want to learn something new, I sit at their feet and I listen to what they say. And let me share this with you. This came across my timeline just this morning. Tom Bilyeu. The lesson life keeps teaching me is that the only winning long-term strategy is to be aggressively yourself. So what he's doing now, right? He got bought out. Now what he's doing is building a $1 billion personal brand. Because he knows the difference between 2020 and 2004. Make sense?
All right. We're going to take a 10-minute break, but let's give another round of applause for Dave.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother. Great intro. Great intro.